This month's podcasts are sponsored by Aubergine Legal. Do you sometimes worry that your business isn't meeting all its legal compliance requirements and wonder if you're ticking all the legal boxes? Are you losing sleep worrying about a piece of legislation that you may or may not be complying with? Perhaps you need some help with your client contracts or your data protection compliance. Or maybe you're worried that your website doesn't have the right documents or legal notices in the right place. Perhaps you have a brand that you want to protect with a trademark. How about if you could outsource it all and eliminate all of your worries? If so, then get in touch with Aubergine Legal, a friendly commercial legal consultancy offering practical and clear commercial legal advice without the overwhelming legal jargon, taking the worry away and helping you to protect your business and minimise your risks. Aubergine offers a free 30-minute consultation if you have any questions or want to find out if they can help, and you can access this link and book your free 30-minute call via the link in the show notes. Welcome to the Bring Your Product Idea to Life podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're getting started selling products or if you'd like to create your own product to sell. I'm Vicky Weinberg, a product creation coach and Amazon expert. Every week, I share friendly, practical advice as well as inspirational stories from small businesses. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode. Today I'm speaking to Melissa McCall from Moving Little Minds. Melissa is a preschool teacher based in the US, and she helps parents and teachers build a strong literacy foundation in young children by merging instruction with play. So Melissa has created some products designed with teaching preschool age children early literacy skills. This was actually the very first interview I recorded in 2024, and I know it's March when you're listening to this, or possibly even later, but just to set the scene, we did record this in very early January. So Melissa, at the time of recording, had only been selling her product. She had one product at the time, which had been selling for 1 month. So really early days. And we decided before we even recorded the podcast that we will do a follow-up towards the end of 2024 to talk about how her business has grown in the year, which I hope you will find really interesting and useful and inspiring. I'm really excited to see what Melissa does this year, and I hope you are too. But for now, for a great introduction to her business, to early literacy, to why it's so important, and to Melissa's business as it stands today at the beginning of 2024, I would love to introduce you to Melissa. So hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. How are you?
Really good, thank you. And how are you? I know it's very early where you are.
I'm good to go.
Amazing, thank you. So let's start with you. Please give an introduction to yourself, your business, and what you sell.
Yes. So my name is Melissa McCall, and I'm with Moving Little Minds. So I have created a business around preschool education. So I'm here in the US, and I teach preschool literacy at a local preschool, and really just noticed that there's a lot that these children can do that we can really kind of spread the word on. So I have focused on really the science of reading and how we can focus on what the research says and bring more to preschool literacy.
Amazing, thank you. And you've covered this a little bit there, but tell me a little bit about what's inspired you to start creating products.
Yeah, so when as a preschool literacy teacher, one of the things that I do is parent trainings, and I also do some teacher trainings, consultations. And so what I found was that, first of all, children in the US cannot read. So unlike the UK, we have major reading deficits. And so what they found is that we're not really following science, the science of reading. So that really interests me as a former kindergarten teacher. And then once I got in these preschool classrooms, started realizing that a lot of the key foundational skills really aren't being taught. So I held a parent training. It starts, at home, and just a few people showed up. I think one came to my training, and this was a free training during the day at the preschool. And so I had made some literacy kits and some other things. And what I found was people need quick, easy, actionable things to do at home. So I kind of pivoted my business. So I had these elaborate literacy kits, and that is what has led to my creation of my new product.
Amazing. Thank you for explaining that. And just out of interest, because I'm not aware, what age is preschool in the US? Because I think it might be different from the UK.
Yes. So we kind of call preschool basically from toddlers all the way to we have 4-year-olds going at 5-year-olds going into kindergarten. So, but actually preschool is like that 4 to 5 years. So that year right before kindergarten.
Okay, yeah. So that for
Yes.
us, that's the first year of school. That 3 to 4, the 4 to 5 age group in the UK that's the first year they're in school properly. Yeah. So I thought that was slightly different. Yeah. So we call that reception or early years. And yeah, I know here that there's a massive focus. So certainly in my children's schools, there's been a really big focus on literacy. And as you were talking about, getting the foundations in place. So I'm sure there are tons of reasons, and I'm sure also that you're not having to convince anyone, by the way, but I just think for all the parents and maybe grandparents listening, why is early literacy so important? Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously reading is the number one thing that we can do for our children. There are studies that have shown that children that are read to, the benefits compared to those that are not are just absolutely amazing. But what we can find is that when we think about those pre-reading skills and really preparing them, a lot of what's missing is called phonological awareness. So that is where it's all auditory. So going beyond, a lot of times teachers focus on letter names and sounds, which is great. That's exactly what we need, because we need those sounds to build that reading foundation, but also doing some of the parts auditorily. So knowing that cat is cat, and really playing around. A lot of times we do a lot of nursery rhymes, but we can go deeper into compound words and syllables. And really, children as young as 3 can already start segmenting syllables. So my mission is kind of to open the eyes that these things are really important and valuable, and we can do them through a little bit of learning and play. So preschool has kind of taken the shift of all play-based, but there are some things that just can't be learned through play. So just a little bit of teaching, we can teach those syllables and then play.
I think that makes total sense. And you're right. And you can make it fun as well. I remember when my kids were that age, they had something called, I don't know if you have this in the US, but they call them phonics, which is basically the sounds each letter makes. And they used to listen to all these fun videos that had dances of to try and explain the sound for each letter. And they loved it. They really were engaged with it because it was fun. And I think there's nothing wrong, is there, with kids having fun while they're learning. And
exactly.
It was interesting what you were saying as well, because I heard a statistic really recently, and I don't know if you've heard the same one, and it came from the US, and it was something like the biggest predictor of success in later life, and I don't know how they're defining success, by the way, but anyway, is early literacy and reading for pleasure. Apparently that's if you read for pleasure as a kid, that's the biggest indicator of success. And as I say, I don't know how they define success, but I still like that.
Yes, and one thing when I was looking into the UK before the interview was that you guys do offer that universal preschool. Well, here in the US, only certain states have started to roll that out. So the UK is I also saw the statistic number 5 in number 4 or 5, internationally for reading literacy. And so I just often wonder, is that the correlation of you guys are giving them the foundation that they need from the start? Every single child gets that foundation. And so now you have reading success. So that's interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. And to be honest, until I was preparing for this interview, I hadn't actually thought too much about it and thought too much about the difference internationally as well. About, some countries, I mean, it's really nice to hear that the UK are doing well, but I'm sure there are other countries that are way ahead of us.
I don't know the exact ones, but you guys were number 4 internationally. So a lot of that too, you mentioned the phonics. So that's a huge push in the US now. So what we found is that we aren't necessarily teaching phonics works. The brain really thrives on those sounds. And so that's a really big push as well for that phonics. And one of the products I do sell is actually sounds with motions. So that's so funny that you said that. I have a little flashcard system that teaches the sounds through motions. So that's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I really think making it fun for kids is what works.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's led me on really nicely. So actually tell us about some of your products, Melissa. So what your products are, what are parents buying when they get a kit from you?
Yes. So I pivoted away from the kits because I found those were it's just too much work. So I have it with me here, but this is my latest product. So it's just a 5x5 and it builds those pre-reading skills. So you tear off a page. So every day you do a little activity and tear off a page. So it's looking at those 6 main components of reading. There's an incentive chart that goes with it. So basically giving them the foundation that they need at home. It takes 5 minutes or less. One of my customers just got back to me. One of the pages focuses on those concepts of print and punctuation. And their daughter's now 4, searching through every book saying, there's a period, there's a question mark. And it's just little things that it's not that you just don't know that it's valuable. And to teach it, you're probably not going to naturally start talking about periods with your child. But if you have a little reminder, then it just opens up a lot of possibilities.
That's really nice. And I agree. I think it's really good how simple you've made, because I think as a parent, it's really hard when you think there's something else you have to do or something else you're not doing. So I guess if there's tons of like pre-reading you have to do or background work, it's much less likely to get done. But I really like the product you've showed. Hold it up again, Melissa, because we'll make sure having the video for this. So you hold it up.
It has a little tabletop stand, and then I don't want to peel it off right now, but you peel off a page as you go. And it goes through all 6 of the main literacy components.
Oh, that's brilliant. And where are you? So how long have you been selling these? I know that you're in the really early days of your business because we've spoken about that. And so today we'll cover what we can. And we've already spoken about the fact we'll get you back on the podcast later on this year when your business is a bit more established and talk about progress and how you've grown and all that kind of thing, which I'm super excited about. But where are you right now?
Yes. So right now, the product's only available on my website, which is movinglittleminds.com. I have sold it to local friends and preschool moms, and I'm kind of just really figuring out where is the best spot to put it. So is it going to be more of a boutique item? Is Amazon the right spot for it? And just kind of really doing some research. I'm kind of sitting on it a little bit right now until I have decided a better marketing plan.
That makes sense. And how long has it been available now?
Just about a month. So I actually entered a contest to win $10,000 with this product. So this is kind of how it launched. I had the idea. I knew that I need to make something quick and easy. And we have a local small business center here. And I noticed, and so that really sparked like, oh, I better just make this and launch it and pitch it. So it was kind of like a mini Shark Tank, which really got the idea going. And I got 4th place. So I didn't get any of the funds, but it kind of really got me rolling with the idea. And then, as you know, things take time. And so that was in July. So I think I finally got it printed in November.
Oh, that's still pretty good though. That's like good progress. And because it's a printed product, was that something you were able to find like local to you, someone to create it for you?
Yes. So right now I am using a local Charlotte business here in Charlotte. And actually $1 of every sale also goes to a charity that I'm interested in.
That's really nice. So it feels like at the moment it's still quite local. Is that fair to say?
Exactly. Yes. And I know that's one of the things that I'd look into pivoting, like, that to get your margins down, just looking at other ways to get it printed for a little, less.
But that is really nice. And I think it's a really nice way to start, because you're obviously a local, you live locally, you're supporting another local business. I think that is, that is a really nice way of doing things. And you've mentioned that you're not quite sure what lies ahead, but do you have any sort of immediate plans for things you might be doing in the next couple of months, maybe marketplaces you might look at, ways you might try and expand?
Yeah. So I think the biggest one is Amazon. I know you're the expert at that. So I hope to meet with you again, but just really looking at, is it a good product for Amazon? I know there's so much out there with preschool literacy. When I was pitching the product, I think it was going to be preschool literacy products were going to be growing exponentially over the next 5 years, because people really have started to understand that, children do need these key foundational skills. So that's a really positive thing to see that the market is going to grow. Another thing that I've got really good feedback is to make a baby one. So maybe 50 intentional ways to connect with your baby. And you can easily throw that in at a baby shower. So that's one I've also started. So I guess I'm focusing on the next product but I think having more of a collection, I would love to have, a baby one, a toddler one, and then this one as well, so that I could really see it as, keeping that customer coming back. They like as their child grows.
I think that's really nice and makes a lot of sense. I think you're right, though. It's hard to balance creating new products with selling the ones that you have. I think that's always a really tricky balance. Exactly. But I can definitely see the reasoning behind creating more products, and possibly one for slightly older children as well, because I think learning to read and learning literacy skills isn't something that you're done with at the preschool age, is it? Of course, that's the foundation, but there's still quite a lot to build on.
Absolutely, yes. Even like you said, some sitting down and reading a book with your child, reading to our children is easy, but once they start reading, sometimes that can also be it's exhausting sometimes, not only as a parent, but when they're starting to learn to sound out those words. So something quick and easy where it's like, oh, let's just quickly read a couple sentences here or do a little rhyme. I could see that going a little older as well.
Definitely. And as you said that, I was thinking, I remember with both my children at the age when they start coming home with a book to read to you. Yes. You're right. It is exhausting. It's exhausting for you. And it's also really tiring for them. I remember having tears about, certain words, and it sounds really silly, but I think it's not, is it? I think it's I think learning to read, because obviously none of us can remember it, I think it's a really hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to teach as well and support.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's one of my biggest tips I always tell people is you read a page, they read a page, because you're right. Especially as they're learning to sound out those words, it is exhausting for them mentally and for you as the supporter. So I always say it shouldn't be a battle. They can read a sentence and then you read a sentence, just to make it more fun.
I actually did that a lot with my youngest child, partly because I had an older one that I was still reading with, and so it was a time thing, but also I think I got a lot more relaxed by my second child, in the sense that I knew that she would learn to read, and it was actually easier to make it less of a trauma for everyone involved by okay, I'll read this page and then you read that tiny little bit and then I'll read the rest of it, and however it goes, it just has to work for everyone. It was really interesting what you were saying about demands for the products, early literacy products going up. I'm just curious, have you seen any other products similar to yours? So there's probably lots of them in the market now. Have you seen anything similar, or were yours still quite unique?
Yeah. So when I was doing a lot of the market research, there really is nothing quite like this. There's games, there's flashcards, there's anything, little dry erase markers, workbooks. But I think that's what really sets me apart is there's really nothing like it. It really requires basically no materials either, which I think is pretty unique. One of the things is we're talking about print. So go into your pantry and find words that you recognize. Talk about, that's a word. This says applesauce. So I think, it is very unique. I was struggling with trying to find the right pricing because there really wasn't a lot out there, to compare it to. So I think, that really sets me apart.
Well, that's really exciting. And that also makes me feel really hopeful for your chances on Amazon as well. Obviously, I haven't done any sort of in-depth research, but the fact that there's nothing identical out there already is a really good place to start. Always. Definitely a good starting point. And what kind of feedback have you had from customers who've bought it so far?
It's been really great. The biggest thing is they love the incentive chart. So within the product, you can scan a little QR code and download the incentive chart, because what's typically the number one reason that children just don't want to work with their parents. That happens a lot, that you get a lot of pushback that, they won't sit down and do anything with me. So it's easy and it's quick, which they love, but then also it's just a tiny little circle that you get to color in. And when you get to 10, it has a star. So just that extra layer of motivation for children. So that was one really great feedback that I have. And just that it's cute to sit out. That's another one I've gotten. So it's appealing to the eye. So you don't mind it sitting right there on your counter. I really was intentional to get a back on it, because if it was sitting flat like a pad of paper, I feel like it would just get buried. So it's more like a display where you're like, oh, let's do our literacy chart today. So.
And I mean, I've seen this lots, and I hope everyone goes to your website. So it's movinglittleminds.com, isn't it? To have a good look, because I can see it and I think it looks really nice. I also really like the fact that it's all cardboard as well, or paper. So I can see even the little stand at the back is integrated. I think that's really nice as well. That's just another little touch that I like.
Yeah, thank you.
I was saying it looks beautifully designed as well. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Also, you can write on the back of the page, it's a pad of paper, so you can definitely reuse it. So I think that's another bonus.
Oh, absolutely. Because what no parent wants really is to fill their house with things, just to have more things. But actually, the fact that you could do an exercise, tear the page off, use it for your shopping list, put it in the recycling afterwards, it's all good.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Well, no problem. And thank you so much for everything that you have shared today, Melissa. I have one final question for today. As I say, I would love to get you back on later this year to kind of talk about, because as you say, you've had the products available for a month, so it's really early days. We'll definitely get you on later this year to talk about progress and what's changed and how you've grown. Maybe you'll even have some new products by then. I'll be really excited to hear. But right now, and it'll be interesting to see if this changes actually, right now, what would your number one piece of advice be for other product creators?
I would say the biggest piece of advice would be to really explore your target market and be willing to pivot. I think we have so many awesome ideas, and I designed this great literacy kit that is going to give you everything you need, and it was a flop. So just really kind of understanding that's not what my target market needs, and saying, okay, I need to pivot and I still have all this intellectual knowledge I've already created. I've done the hard work, and then I can take that knowledge and put it into something that's what the people actually need and want.
That's really good advice. Thank you. And I think, it's really smart as well. And also really hard, I imagine, because I think sometimes we can get really wedded to an idea in our heads and think it's the best idea. It can actually be quite humbling to go, oh, actually, my idea wasn't, my first idea maybe wasn't the best idea. Not that it wasn't a good idea, but I think that it can be quite humbling to sort of go, okay, maybe I can do something slightly different or slightly better, however you want to look at it. So and well done for doing that, because it seems like your product now isn't that much different from your kits. You've just packaged it in a way that hopefully parents will find more accessible and more fun. I think it's great.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I will link to your website and all of your socials in the show notes so people can go and take a look at your products. And please do come back later in the year and we can talk about how you're getting on.
All right. Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode. Do remember that you can get the full back catalogue and lots of free resources on my website, vickyweinberg.com. Please do remember to rate and review this episode if you've enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend who you think might find it useful. Thank you again, and see you next week. If you've been inspired to start a podcast in 2024, I really recommend my podcast host, Captivate. Captivate were my top pick when I started podcasting 4 years ago because of how easy it was for a complete novice like me to get started. I've stuck with them for the last 4 years because Captivate is still really simple to use. They keep adding great new features like the ability to share ads like these, and they've just been really reliable. So when you're ready to start your own podcast, you can use the link in the show notes and get a free 7-day trial with Captivate.